In this video, you are going to get the answers to the frequently asked questions concerning switching to data analytics. I'm going to tell you the questions, and I'm also going to answer the questions to the best of my ability. If you are considering switching to tech, then this video is for you, specifically if you want to switch to data analytics. So hold that thought, don't go anywhere, and I'll be right back. Hey, my name is Amida and I'm a Nigerian YouTuber based in Toronto, Canada. On my channel, you would find content on lifestyle, i.e. living in Canada, vlogs and story times. And recently a sprinkle of career. I currently work as a data analyst, and in my spare times you might find me on Instagram Live talking to data enthusiasts and talking about data analytics. So I thought to bring that sprinkle of my life, that aspect of my life, to YouTube by popular demand. So you're going to be seeing a lot more content, about data analytics and my life with regards to my career as a data analyst. Okay. So like the title suggests, in today's video, I'm going to be answering the frequently asked questions, about data analytics and switching to data analytics. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing below to join this family. And if you're an existing subscriber, thank you so much for always coming back to watch my video. And along the line, if you learn a thing or two, please remember to give this video a thumbs up so that other people can get to watch the video. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. There's a lot of talk about tech. Everybody's talking about tech everywhere you go to. You're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you're on IG, everybody's talking about tech, right? And in as much as it's a buzzword right now, it's not just hype, right? It's an amazing career to take on. Depending on what motivates you, if you want to change the world, you can change the world in your different careers, but like in terms of like technology wise, you want to be in tech, right? It depends on also what you set yourself up for in the future. If money is the motivation, hey, there's money in tech, right? So before I even begin to answer the question, I just want to speak to you. If you are considering switching to tech or even to data analytics, you have to answer the question why, right? Why do you want to switch in the first place? Like, what are you doing currently that makes you want to switch to tech? Because it's very important to know your why. Otherwise, you can get tired of the journey of switching and then you sort of like give up. So you need to know your why, right? It's not just cliche. You need to know your why. Why do you want to switch? What motivates you? Is it the money? Is it the I'm a tech sis, I'm a tech bro? What, like, do you want to change the world? Do you love AI? Do you love ChatGPT? Like, why? And once you answer your why, it will also guide you as to what part of tech you want to get into. So that was just my bonus intro for you. So in case you haven't thought about your why, please think about your why before you even consider switching careers at all. And also towards the end of this video, I would explain to you why you don't necessarily have to switch your career. Like, you can still be in your current industry and be a tech pro, but a tech sis. Okay? So the very first question that I normally get is that can it be self-taught? Right? Like, what do I have to do? How do I get started? In as much as there are lots of free resources online, if you go on YouTube, honestly, YouTube is great to learn anything at all. Like, there's YouTube, there's Coursera, there's Udemy, there's all sorts of different edtechs. But whatever I'm answering today will be based on personal experience. Yes, it can be self-taught, but to have a greater understanding, it's better you learn in a classroom environment, if you get what I mean, right? If you're somebody like me that's very competitive, I tend to do well in a classroom or where I have other people. Because if I'm learning on my own, sometimes I get tired, I can like postpone it. Believe me when I tell you, I have 3 courses I was supposed to take this year, I haven't done one. But if it was a classroom thing, best believe I would have done it, and by God's grace I would have aced it by now. You get what I mean? So that classroom feel definitely is an edge, and because you have instructors that you can interact with, it might not be real time, but you have a person, as opposed to just like taking a course, buying a course where you cannot like necessarily ask questions personally. So if you ask me, yes, it can be self-taught, but I would say start up with an ed tech company. There are different, ed tech companies. If you follow me on IG, you would know that I usually go on live for a particular tech company. Do your research. There are lots of Nigerian-owned ed tech companies that operate in Canada, in UK, all sorts. But like I would say that a classroom environment will definitely help you, grow or get better. Okay? Yes, you can learn it on your own. And also what I took from because I also learned a part of data in a classroom environment, and I found that they give you the right foundation to then go ahead and continue to learn on your own. Right? So if you need that kickstart, that ginger, you start with them, and then subsequently you begin to like just really build on that foundation that you started with. Okay? I don't want to spend too much time on questions, but like you get what I mean, right? Second question I get from people that want to switch to data is, will I need to code? I don't like coding. I don't like programming. I don't like coding. It's okay. It's fine, right? There are different parts of data analytics. You can be a data architect. There are different tools for that. You can be a data analyst. There's a different tool. You can be a business intelligence analyst. There's a different tool for that. So like data analytics is very broad. Depends on what you want to do, right? If you have established that you don't want to code, then you have no business being a data scientist, where you most likely begin to write codes in Python and all of that. You don't want to code, you have no business being a data architect, where you should sleep, drink, and eat SQL, like SQL, structured query language, right? Which, to be honest, for me is like writing English, but you get what I mean. Like, if you don't want anything that resembles programming, then there are some parts of data analytics that I wouldn't advise, right? Even though they are not difficult, but you get what I mean. If you're scared of it, I would say no, right? But like essentially, there's something for everybody, right? If you want to become a data analyst, I am currently a sales data analyst. Okay, there's a very long title to it. If you find me on LinkedIn, sales business performance analyst. Well, essentially, I'm a sales analyst, and that's what I used to do. That's what I used to do back in Nigeria, right? And honestly, in my how many years of being in data, at least 5 years, the one tool that you use or that I use 90% of the time is Microsoft Excel, and that's what gets the job done. I feel like that tool is the most underrated tool in analytics, honestly. So believe me when I tell you that to become a data analyst, you just need to learn how to use Excel. Then top it up with data visualization tools like Microsoft Power BI and Tableau. Either of the two or both. I don't know how to use Tableau. I only use Power BI. So when I was applying to jobs, I made sure to apply to places that just wanted Power BI, right? Even though if I wanted to learn Tableau, it shouldn't be that difficult at all, right? But you get what I mean. So you learn how to use Excel and then sprinkle it with data visualization. But essentially, if you master those two, you are ready to become a data analyst. Okay, because I learned how to use SQL a couple of times, but I've never used it on the job, right? Because I'm not a data architect. I know that in Nigeria, an analyst might have to use all of those tools together because, we don't really have separation of duty like that. But in this part of the world, it's very specialized. So if you're an analyst, for the most part, if you're a sales analyst, for the most part, you use Excel and Power BI. Yes, in the job requirement, they can write SQL, they can write Python, they can, best believe, at least I have worked in 2 companies in Canada, even though in a few weeks, but anyways, and it's the same thing, it's just Excel, right? In the JD, one other company that I almost started working with, it's the same thing. But in the JD, don't be scared, right? Feel free to apply. Once you've mastered your Excel, you're good. Microsoft Excel has a little to do with coding. I just writing formula, like you're writing equals to 2 plus 2. Okay? So you don't know how to code. No problem. It's a never problem. You're good to go. Right? So if you want to switch to tech and become a data analyst, you don't like to code, it's fine. It's okay. You don't have to code, okay? The question I usually get is, what are the tools needed to get started? Like, what are the tools needed to get started with analytics? And I covered it in my last point. Honestly, for me, the basic to get into this industry is Microsoft Excel and Power BI or Tableau or both. Once you have these two skills and you're proficient in it, you are ready to get into tech. You are ready to become a tech sis. You're ready to get into the industry. You just have to ace your interview and you are Gucci. Okay? So in terms of tools needed to get started, I would say start small. And I know a couple of people that have reached out to me and they tell me, oh, we're just learning how to code, but we've learned how to use Python, we've learned how to use SQL, like fun stuff, but do you know how to use Microsoft Excel? And they say, oh no. I'm sorry, if you want to become a data analyst, if you want to get into data at all, at least need to master the art of Excel, right? Then you can then begin to, if you see my resume, you see Python, you see AI for businesses, you see SQL. Yes, I learned those things, right? But like when they ask me in interviews to rate myself, I rate myself really low and I explain. Like, okay, I rate myself a 5 or a 4 because I have not used it on my day-to-day, right? But I can definitely, go back and brush up and do all of that. But it's going to be on my resume because I learned it, and if I had to take a role that had to do with that, I'll brush up and I'll be able to take the interview or even ace the role. You get what I mean? So those are nice to have on your resume, but like when it comes down to it and you know the part of data you want to go into, right? The tool that is most important to get into with is Microsoft Excel. Even if you're a data scientist, even if you're a data architect, anything data, if you don't know how to use a spreadsheet software like Microsoft Excel, I don't know what you're doing, man. Some developers don't know how to use Excel, and that's fine. That's okay. But like you want to be in the data analytics space, you must know how to use Excel. Like it's a no-brainer, right? And if you know how to use Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets will be easy for you because their syntaxes are similar, right? So just know how to use Microsoft Excel and you're good. So learn a data visualization tool to top it up. That's Microsoft Power BI or Tableau or both. Then once you're done with those two, you can now learn SQL, you can learn Python. Those are nice to haves. But like to kickstart, to get into the industry, those two tools in order of priority: number one, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Power BI or Tableau, and both. Okay, so the next question that I usually get asked is, should I do a 360-degree switch? In my career, meaning that, for example, you're in marketing or you're in sales, should you leave that entire industry and become, a data analyst, like move 360 to tech, change industries, change everything? I think there's no straight answer to that, and I would explain why. So, for example, doctors in Nigeria, and I'll use Nigeria as a case study. I'm Nigerian, so pardon me, right? So in Nigeria, for example, doctors that relocate to Canada and the likes, they can't necessarily practice until they get their certification and licensing and convert their certificate and all of that stuff. First of all, it's not cheap and it is time consuming, and the exams are not exactly a walk in the park, right? So I know quite a number of people in the medical field that are now tech bro. Texas, that is the reason why they switched the industry entirely, because for them that plan is not feasible to continue practicing, and a couple of them do genuinely have a passion for tech. So that way, they sort of like did the 360 switch, right? However, if, for example, you're in marketing, and I use marketing as an example because I know a couple of people that have reached out to me and they're in that industry and they're telling me, I want to be an analyst. I want to switch to data. What should I do? And my answer to them is simple. You don't necessarily need to leave marketing because there's something called domain expertise, right? If you're in marketing, you already know the marketing lingua. As a matter of fact, if you see a marketing data, you will interpret it a lot more, sensibly than somebody that has no background in marketing or that is in the manufacturing industry that is just a tech bro or a tech sis, that's just an analyst, right? But because you have worked in marketing for so long, you understand the terms. For example, when you see conversion rate, you know what it is. When you see net promoter score, you know what it is. You know what they're talking about, right? So when you see like the different lingua in marketing, you know what it is. And so when you see the data, you can make sense of it. And so my advice is usually, how about you add analytics to your current field, right? You're in marketing. You can become a consumer marketing insight analyst, a CMI person, right? So all you have to do is learn data analytics, Excel and Power BI maybe. And there's also digital marketing analysis. There's actually consumer marketing insight analysis also. Like you can take those courses and all of that. Then you apply it to your current field, right? You're in marketing. You learn how to use data to interpret data from marketing team. You get what I mean? Like you don't necessarily need to do a 360. As a matter of fact, you will add a lot more value if you make that move. Adding data to your existing profession. So if for some reason you don't see how you can apply data at all to your profession and you just want to switch, that's okay too, right? You do a 360 and then you learn how to be an analyst, you interview for different sector entirely, and thankfully you get in, and then you get confident enough to use data to make sense of numbers and all of that stuff. And there's a time in future that you see an opening in your old industry. I'm telling you that you will not hesitate to apply, right? Because you already have a background, right? Forget about industry even. Talk about your education. If you were a biochemist or you did microbiology and all of that, and somehow your career switched to data, and you see a job in a pharmaceutical as a data analyst in a pharmaceutical industry, or a data analyst in a medical lab or something like that, you won't switch. As a matter of fact, they are likely to hire you because you have a background in that. You'll be able to make more sense of their data because of your background in biochemistry and all of that stuff, and then you'll be able to add more value. So my question to you is, what is the value proposition? Do you want to stay with your current employer or even your current industry by just adding value to your existing role? Are you already a valued member of a team, or you're in a position that is up there? If you ask me, I don't see why you should switch, like do a 360. My ask would be that you learn data and apply it to your role, because you're going to add a lot more value to their role. For example, somebody recently asked me, she's in HR and she wants to switch to data as well. And I told her, have you heard of HR data analyst? You can be an HR data analyst, and the only way to do that is you learn data analytics and you apply it to the HR departments. When you check job openings, you see HR analysts, they're there. So because you already have experience in HR, and then you went ahead to learn data analytics, you become an HR data analyst, and honestly, you are very likely to perform in that role and even get the job, right? So before you consider doing a 360, think of the best ways to apply it to your current role. Can you, get a lot more value in your current role? If it's not a case of role, look at your backgrounds. For example, you studied engineering and then you find a job in GE or one of those core engineering companies, right? And you apply there as a data analyst because you've learned data analytics. Because of your background, you are most likely to do well, right? So, ask yourself, these questions, unless you feel that there's no way you can add any value to this current industry, then by all means feel free to switch, right? Like I mentioned earlier on, about doctors and all of that. There's some professions, or even lawyers, right? Or bakers and all of that stuff. It's valid, that industry is hardly what you can, do, right? Then you can switch. But like, you might be throwing away gold just because you want to switch like everybody's switching. So you need to evaluate. It's a personal thing, right? Look at your industry, look at your background. Are you most likely to add value, stay put in that industry, and just add using data analytics as an add-on, or doing an entire 360? Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. It is personal, right? So feel free to evaluate that based on your current situation. Now, to the fifth question and my final question that I usually get asked is, how easy is it to get a job as a data analyst? So this is very tricky. You've learned everything there is to learn about data analytics. You've gone to a classroom, you've done projects, you've done presentations. Now you have all of the theory knowledge, and if you went to a very good ed tech, you already have practical knowledge as to how it works in the industry and in the business world. And it's time to, now I'm ready to get a job. You're ready to get a job, right? Look, that process can be daunting. And I'm here to tell you that it's not a case of whether you're good or not. Even professionals like me, I remember when I came to Canada, I documented, which I'm probably going to do in another video, the number of interviews that I had to go through. I did at least, I'll put the actual number on the screen here just in case I say something wrong. But I think I did at least 23 interviews or almost 30 interviews with about 13 different companies. And out of those 13, I think I got 3 offers, right? So even as an experienced person in the field, the interview, honestly, the way life is, might not be a walk in the park, right? It depends on what the company is looking for, right? And so I'm saying this to say that don't put yourself down if you've been applying since and they are not calling you. First thing you need to do is work on your resume, which depending on also the company that you lent your data with, most of them have an add-on of LinkedIn optimization and CV review and all of that. But also do your diligence to find out how to optimize your resume. But if your resume is good, don't feel bad if you're doing the interviews and get to the final stage. I did a lot of interviews, like I did with MasterCard. I did 5 stages, and at the end of the day, they served me breakfast. There was a company that I did presentation for. I was so sure that I was going to get the job. After the last stage, they gave me breakfast. So it is what it is, right? It doesn't mean you're not good enough, right? You do your part. You've done your learnings. You've dotted your I's, you've crossed your T, you've done your presentations, you know the skill. And I think one important thing to add is, once you ace your interview, you're in, right? And the only way to ace your interview is with confidence. Like, when you're talking about these things, like, it, they can feel the passion, right? And honestly, the 3 offers that I got, it was only one of them that, stressed me with like 4 stages or whatever. The 2 that I got, one of them, 3 hours after, they called me and gave me the job. I got it through a recruiter, so I'd done, like, they gave me a project before the interview. So the interview, they just asked me normal HR, whatever questions, and they asked me to explain my answer. 3 hours later, they called and gave me the job. The second one that I got, which I'm currently in, I just spoke to HR, normal phone call interview. The next stage was a panel interview, and believe me, the next day they called me and gave me the job. And this second interview that I'm talking about had nothing to do with technical. They said that from my resume, they could tell that I had the technical skills, so there was no point putting that to test. Now it was a case of, the work culture, right? How do you fit into the culture of the company? So like I said, there are different parties that come to play when it comes to job hunting and interviewing and all of that. For them, they were more concerned about like your work culture, their work culture, rather than how you fit into it. For the resume, for me to have gotten through to the interview, they said that they know that I had the technical skills, so there was no point wasting time with that. And because of the way I was speaking and I was talking, because when you're talking about yourself, you're talking about your experiences, you're talking about what you did, you're being passionate about these things. They can tell whether you know it or not. And there's some people that are naturally shy, and it's not that they don't know it, they just don't know how to talk. But you need to do better, because honestly, that confidence and speaking to them from a place of passion is what is most likely going to help you to get that job. Are there openings in analytics? If you go to LinkedIn and search data analysts, last 24 hours, I promise you see thousands of listings in just 24 hours. It is to tell you that there are always openings, right? So first leg into the door is getting an amazing resume that gets into the door. Thankfully, there's a lot of hacks with ChatGPT and all of that. Great. When you get in the door, then you need to prove to the interviewer that you know your stuff and you can add value to the organization. So there's no direct answer to that question of how easy is it to get a job. Easy is relative if you ask me. Right? I think the better question would be, is it a good industry to be in? Are there jobs available? And my answer to both is yes. There are a lot of jobs. It's an amazing industry. In my next couple of videos, I'm going to do a video about a day-to-day as a sales data analyst, so that you sort of get what I'm trying to say here, right? So like I said, I don't want the answers to this question to be too long. I hope that if you are considering to switch to data analytics, you've gotten an answer to the question and you are ready to finally give it a try, or you're ready to kickstart that journey. And I'm telling you that, because, I usually have a lot of questions about these things because I've been in the field for long, and in my spare time, I join master classes on IG Live and whatnot, talking about data because I'm very passionate about it. I don't know if you can tell. Talking about data and all of that. So naturally, people, friend of a friend, cousin of a cousin, they would ask me this question. Well, I know somebody that wants to switch to tech, what should they do? Or when they give them my contact. So the questions are like the popular questions that everybody asks, and you are probably asking that or thinking that in your mind as well. So I hope that I've answered your question. If there's any more questions that it's not part of these 5 questions, obviously, drop it in the comment section, then I'll be sure to elaborate or maybe even do another video concerning that. I hope that you've learned a thing or two on this channel. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't. I'll see you in my next couple of videos. Bye.